Alright, just a few seconds, folks.
Just take a picture. Just take a picture. I will. Just take a picture.
Good afternoon, folks. How's everyone doing today? Good to hear. Well, my name's Kyle, and I'm joined here by Jacob, and we'll be doing your cannon firing demonstration today. Folks, how's that sound? Good. The 5 people that said that. What we're currently wearing is the undress uniform of the U.S. military of the 1880s, and this would have been their day-to-day wear for all of their activities of manual labor and chores they had to do around the fort. But more specifically, we're representing the 23rd Infantry E Company that have been stationed here at Fort Mackinac in the later half of the 1880s. This garrison of between 80 to 100 soldiers garrisoned here had a large variety of duties to perform, doing things like fatigue duty, which is around 4 to 8 hours of manual labor and chores around the fort. They're doing marksmanship training. They're doing drill every day besides Sunday at the parade ground. But a very important duty of a soldier of the garrison is performing guard duty. Guard duty is a 24-hour shift where a soldier would rather start in the guardhouse or on the wall, but either way, he'll do 2 hours of the guardhouse or 2 hours of the wall, repeating that process until his 24-hour shift is over. These soldiers are not only guarding from anyone trying to enter the fort or anyone trying to leave the jail cell, but they're also guarding the soldiers in the fort to go to many of the bars and fudge shops that were, open during the 1880s. So it's a very very important job. But these soldiers are also watching for any fires that may happen in the fort, as this is an entirely wooden fort. You don't really want to have a fire in a wooden fort, so they play a pivotal role watching the chimneys and also in just the local area as well. But soldiers would also do a very fun job as well while being on guard duty. They'd have the job of firing the cannons 2 times a day. They're firing what's called a salute shot. They're firing just a blank charge. They're not loading any shot into the cannon, just the black powder. But they'll load that blank charge into the cannon and fire it 2 times a day. Once in the morning with the raising of the flag with reveille playing, and once in the evening with retreat playing with the lowering of the flag, signaling the start of the workday on Mackinac Island and signaling the end of the workday on Mackinac Island. But since this is a cannon and these were all infantry soldiers, they'd find any reason to fire this cannon because it is fun to fire a cannon, believe it or not. The soldiers would fire it on federal holidays like the 4th of July, where they'd fire what's called a national salute. They'd fire 1 shot per State of the Union for this national salute, and by the 1880s, they're firing 38 shots. Before this national salute, they'd be firing at the best time of day, the crack of dawn. So if you didn't know it was the 4th of July, you then knew. But they'd also fire on other federal holidays like Decoration Day, or what we know it as Memorial Day. And they'd also fire on other sadder and solemn occasions like the passing of Ulysses S. Grant, where they'd fire a huge slew of shots for him. But overall, they'd just fire the cannon for whatever reason they could find. But the cannon we're going to be firing today is the same one they would have been firing in the 1880s. This is a reproduction of a model 1841 6-pound smoothbore field gun. This is a long technical name. The soldiers, and we just call it a 6-pounder. But like I said at the start, we're representing a unit from the 1880s. This is a cannon from 1841. Why do we have a 40-year-old cannon in a fort that's from the 1880s? Well, by this period in the 1880s, technology has advanced far where cannons have come along with that. By the 1880s, they have cannons that can shoot around 16-pound projectiles, around 3 to 2 miles out with pinpoint accuracy. They have rifling inside of it that can load from the back, and they're loading shells. This cannon has none of that. This cannon does not have rifling. It is a smooth bore. That means it doesn't have grooves inside of it that makes it more accurate. This cannon loads from the front. It is a muzzle loader. And if this cannon was actually loaded with a projectile, it would have been loaded with a cannonball, not a shell. So why does arguably an obsolete cannon from 1840s in an active duty U.S. military garrison in the 1880s? Well, that's because Fort Mackinac is serving as the headquarters of the 2nd National Park by this period. They do not really fear that the Canadians want to take over their national park. The Canadians don't really want Arch Rock or Sugarloaf. They don't want to waste soldiers for that. We're not really fearing that the tourists are going to take over the fort with their fudge. They just need a cannon that can fire a salute shot once in the morning and once in the evening, and this baby is perfectly good for that. Well, for you folks coming on to this hot day coming up here to Fort Mackinac, I think you folks deserve a salute shot. How does that sound?
Yeah.
Oh, good to hear. Well, since this is a muzzle loader, we have to go through the lengthy process of actually loading our charge and our salute shot since it's a muzzle loader. So I'll be doing the most dangerous task of putting on this leather glove and covering this hole right here called thumb stalling. I'm preventing any oxygen from flowing through the cannon and starting any embers or flames. What Jacob is going to do is going to take what's called an auger and put it down the cannon. It's a large corkscrew that's going to clean anything that's been left over maybe from our last shot or anything that's been purposely put down the cannon. Things like rubber duckies or trash or beer cans that people have put down the cannon before. So it is a important and pivotal task to actually cleaning into the safety. The next thing he's going to take out is what's called a sponge. It's a long stick with sheep's wool at the end. He's dipping it in water and putting it down the cannon. Not only is that water going to extinguish any flames, but he's also pushing all the oxygen out of the cannon as it has nowhere else to go, making a vacuum that he's just collapsed. That thought tells us that for a second there was no oxygen inside the cannon, meaning that if there was still flames there, they are now gone, meaning that it's safe to load our charge. Our charge today is 5 ounces of black powder wrapped in knot, historically accurate tin foil. He'll then put that at the end of the cannon and ram it all the way down here, right next to the vent. And after he stepped away, my job's over and I can end my thumb stalling. We can go to the second process of the cannon. He'll then take out what's called a gunner's pick, which is a long brass spike, and put that down the vent. Essentially, he's poking a hole within our charge, allowing us to use our priming device. Our priming device today, what we'll be using, is what's called a friction primer. Friction primer is a brass tube with gunpowder inside of it, fulminated mercury,